A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus entered the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him as he was teaching and said, "By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority?" Jesus said to them, "I will also ask you one question, and if you tell me the answer, then I will also tell you by what authority I do these things. Did the baptism of John come from heaven, or was it of human origin?" And they argued with one another, and they said, "If we say from heaven, then he will say to us, 'Why then did you not believe him?' But if we say of human origin, we are afraid of the crowd, for all regard John as a prophet." So they answered Jesus, "We do not know." And he said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things." The word of the Lord. In the past few years, it's become rather commonplace, in my experience, for there to be a lot of consternation about too much politics in the church and hesitancy about people getting too political at church. When I hear that, I try to reframe for people the idea of saying, perhaps it's not politics in the church that we're afraid of. Jesus, after all, was rather a political figure. He used the law and entered into political arguments with the people of his time to speak truth to power, to call for justice and human dignity. He was trying to upend systems of injustice and to create new systems of justice. Jesus was a deeply political figure, and the church has always been deeply political. I would say, however, that what we want to strive away from is the idea of being partisan in the church. And that's that idea of a sort of a politics that is geared toward winning at all costs, even if it's not the right thing to do for the people around you. The idea of setting aside what's actually in the interests of your community and your people for the sake of winning. Now that I would be in agreement. That is something that we should try to strive away from in the church. I rather think this gospel story is a perfect example of that, because you see, when the Pharisees are questioning Jesus, they've already predetermined that they're just trying to find a reason to condemn him. They're trying to catch him in saying something where they can turn against him, use against him, rather like giving himself enough rope to hang himself, trying to catch him in a trick. They have zero interest in actually trying to engage in a debate where we learn and grow and seek what's right together. And you see, Jesus knows this. Jesus knows that the Pharisees have no interest in engaging in an actual discourse on what's good for the people around us. And so he rather refuses to engage. He tests them. He turns the test around on them and sees that really, when he asks them the question about John the Baptist and where his authority comes from, he sees that all they're really interested in is winning. And so when he turns it around on them and he sees that's all that they're interested in, he doesn't play their game. He doesn't play by their rules. Because Jesus isn't interested in getting points or winning or even being seen as right. He's just interested in caring for those around him. He's interested in loving people who need to be loved, calling for healing where there are people who are hurting, speaking justice and calling truth to power where he sees injustice at work in the world. And he's not doing it for political points. He's not doing it to be lifted up in praise. He's simply doing it because politically, what he wants is what's best for everyone. My hope, as hard as it is sometimes in our world today, is that we can look, even in the midst of our political differences, as an opportunity to seek not to be the winners in a debate, but to seek to understand one another, to engage in respectful discourse, to genuinely come to the table with one another in order to try to seek how can we heal, how can we love, how can we serve those around us, even if it means at the end of the day we might not be the ones who get the glory for it. I think if we strive to do that, then we are continuing in the same kind of political discourse that Jesus engaged in his day and commends to us today. Thanks be to God. Amen.